Russia's Bolshoi Ballet show goes on despite pandemic. Moscow, in a rare sight in the pandemic era. The grandiose auditorium of the Bolshoi in Moscow started filling up with people arriving to see the legendary Nutcracker ballet on a December night. The number of seats has been capped to 25%, and neither staff nor spectator can enter the building without a body temperature check and a face mask. But the enthusiasm of dancers and ballet lovers is unbridled. "We're happy people because we have the opportunity to work today," Makar Vaziev, Bolshoi Ballet director, told ABC News. He said that the anxiety and the feeling of danger persist, but would be worse if his dancers had to stay home. The performing arts industry has been hard hit by the pandemic, and most theaters worldwide remain closed this season. In-person performances of the Nutcracker, the ultimate Christmas blockbuster, were no exception. More performing arts in the age of COVID-19 to cushion the disaster. U.S. ballet companies had to get creative. One of the country's biggest companies, the American Ballet Theatre, partnered with a commercial sponsor to film excerpts of the Nutcracker for YouTube. Others will stream their past performances, or, if weather conditions permit, perform outdoors like the Miami City Ballet. At the Bolshoi, however, the Nutcracker has been running almost daily, sometimes twice a day, from December 22, with the last show scheduled for January 7, when Russian Orthodox Christians celebrate Christmas. But despite being busy, the current season is not going to be a financial success, with ticket sales limited to just 25% as of mid-November. At the time, Russia reported over 20,000 new coronavirus infections every day. "If the situation requires it, it would be fair to close us down," Vladimir Yurin, Bolshoi theater director, told RBK Business Daily. For the dancers, fewer spectators at the normally sold-out shows might be unusual, or even terrible, as Vaziev put it, but better than staying home. Alexei Putinsev, who debuted in The Nutcracker this Christmas, said nothing can ruin this season. He said he hardly notices how few people are watching. More, music industry forced to rethink concerts, tours and more in COVID-19 pandemic. "Those people in the audience give such an ovation, you could not have dreamt of it. They make up for 100%, 150%. And they cheer," he said when ABC News spoke to him before a dress rehearsal. Putinsev and his colleague Elizaveta Kokoreva, who plays Marie, also known as Clara in some Western productions, have bad memories of spring 2028, when even the Bolshoi was shut down. Both say they are happy to get back on stage. The Bolshoi Theatre had to completely shut down mid-March and reopened in September. Since then, only one show, Verdi's opera Don Carlo, has been cancelled after a singer was diagnosed with COVID-19. The theater does not have solid numbers for infections in the troupe. When meeting with Putin in November, Yurin said 124 out of 3,000 staff were infected. Vaziev said the Bolshoi Ballet is capable of going on because they are the biggest company in the world. "We have some interchangeability," he said. "Surely the situation is difficult, but if we imagine that this virus will be with us for the next 2 to 2.5 years, what can we do?" Vaziev said. Like many, he hopes the vaccination campaign started in Russia in December will help them move forward with more confidence. Third body found after landslide in Norway. 7 still missing. Helsinki, rescue teams searching for survivors 4 days after a landslide carried away homes in a Norwegian village found no signs of life Saturday amid the ruined buildings and debris. 3 bodies have been recovered, but searchers are still looking for 7 more people believed to be missing. The landslide in the village of Ask is the worst in modern Norwegian history and has shocked citizens in the Nordic nation. Search teams patrolled with dogs as helicopters and drones with heat-detecting cameras flew amid harsh winter conditions over the ravaged hillside in Ask, a village of 5,000 people 25 kilometers 16 miles northeast of Oslo. Norwegian police pledged not to scale down the search even though a rescue team from neighboring Sweden has already returned home. Local police chief Ida Melbo Oestes said it may still be possible to find survivors in air pockets inside the destroyed buildings. Medically, you can survive for several days if you have air, she told reporters at a news conference. By late Saturday, a second and third body had been found after a first one was discovered on Friday. Only a Dalmatian dog has been rescued alive from the ruins so far. King Harold V, Queen Sonja and Crown Prince Haakon plan to visit the disaster area on Sunday to pay their respects to the victims and to meet with residents and rescue workers. The 83-year-old monarch said in his New Year's speech that the royal family had been deeply moved by the tragedy. Norwegian police have published the names and birth years of the 10 people initially reported missing, including a 2-year-old child. Officials haven't yet identified the 3 recovered bodies. The landslide early Wednesday cut across a road through Ask, leaving a deep crater-like ravine. Photos and videos showed buildings hanging on the edge of the ravine, which grew to be 700 meters 2,300 feet long and 300 meters 1,000 feet wide. At least 9 buildings with over 30 apartments were destroyed. The rescue operation is being hampered by the limited number of daylight hours in Norway at this time of year and fears of further erosion. The ground is fragile at the site and unable to hold the weight of rescue equipment, including a heavy vehicle from the Norwegian military. Over 1,000 people have been evacuated, and officials said up to 1,500 people may be moved from the area amid fears of further landslides. The exact cause of the accident is not yet known, but the Gjerdrum municipality, where Ask is located, is known for having a lot of quick clay, a material that can change from solid to liquid form. Experts said the substance of the clay combined with excessive precipitation and the damp weather typical for Norway at this time of year may have contributed to the landslide. Norwegian authorities in 2005 warned people not to construct residential buildings in the area, but houses were eventually built there later in the decade. Spokeswoman Toril Hofshagen from the Norwegian Water Resources and Energy Directorate called the landslide unique in its destruction. Not since 1893 has there been a quick clay landslide of this dimension in Norway, Hofshagen told the media on Saturday. A person who went to work while sick is likely the cause of 2 separate COVID-19 outbreaks in Oregon. Officials in Oregon say superspreader action is likely behind 2 recent COVID-19 outbreaks in the state. The action in question, a person knowingly went to work while sick and later tested positive for the virus. Douglas County officials said last week 2 separate COVID-19 outbreaks have now been traced back to that person, officials said. 7 people died as a result of the first outbreak, and hundreds of people were forced to self-isolate over the second one. One of those outbreaks has resulted in 7 deaths, and the other recent outbreak has placed over 300 people, families in quarantine. A December 17 statement from the Douglas County government reads, "We can't even imagine the tremendous remorse these people are feeling right now, and we sympathize with them." County officials referred to the incident as superspreader action, calling it one of the most concerning issues we are facing right now. It's a twist on the term superspreader event, which refers to large in-person gatherings such as weddings, parties or religious services where the presence of one infected person has the potential to spur a viral outbreak. They also urged people to stay home if they are experiencing symptoms and to follow other safety protocols. Douglas County, which is located in southern Oregon and has a population of about 111,000, has seen 1,315 total COVID-19 cases as of Tuesday. That includes people who have tested positive for the virus, as well as people who are presumed to be positive. 37 people have died of COVID-19 in the county, and 9 patients are currently hospitalized with the virus, the latest county data shows. Last week, Douglas County was among 29 counties in Oregon that state officials deemed to be at extreme risk over the spread of the virus. Oregon has recorded about 105,000 coronavirus cases and more than 1,300 deaths as of Tuesday, and infections have been surging since November. There's a new addition at the Miami Zoo, a baby giant anteater. The Miami Zoo has a new resident. A male giant anteater was born December 8, its mother's birthday, the zoo said in a news release. The arrival of Ziggy Ebenezer wasn't all smooth sailing. On one of the coldest nights of the year in Florida, the adult female abandoned the baby in the corner of their enclosure. The newborn was weak and cold, according to zoo officials, and was immediately taken to the zoo hospital and put in intensive care. The team did not think that Ziggy would survive, but he slowly became more responsive as he got warmer, and within 48 hours he was strong enough to be reintroduced to his mother. Still, the mother began to reject him, and Ziggy was returned to the hospital to receive care. It continues to gain strength and its distinct black and white coat is beginning to grow in, the zoo said in the release. Zoo veterinarians are cautiously optimistic that the baby has overcome the most serious challenges of its first few days and are hoping that the improvements continue, though there are still obstacles ahead, as there would be for any infant in this situation. Giant anteaters are the largest of the 4 species of anteaters and can reach 6 to 8 feet. According to the zoo's website, they are native to Central and South America and are listed as vulnerable, with their greatest threat being habitat loss. The animal is commonly called the ant bear and has tongues that can be 2 feet long to lick up to 150 ants or termites a minute. They use their strong, powerful front claws to fend off predators, like jaguars, since they have no teeth. Girlfriend of Nashville boomer told police in 2019 he was building explosives in an RV. Records show a woman who said she was the girlfriend of the man who set off the Christmas Day explosion in Nashville told police last year he was making bombs in his recreational vehicle. According to a statement and documents the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department provided to CNN. On August 21, 2019, police received a call from an attorney representing Pamela Perry, the woman who said she was the girlfriend of the bomber Anthony Warner, the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department said in a statement Tuesday. Her attorney, Raymond Throckmorton, said she had made suicidal threats to him via telephone. When police arrived, they found 2 unloaded pistols near Perry, who said they belonged to Warner. She told officers she did not want them in the home any longer and that Warner was building bombs in the RV trailer at his residence, according to a matter of record report from the MNPD. The police also spoke to Throckmorton, who once represented Warner and was also present at Perry's home. He told authorities Warner frequently talks about the military and bomb making. Throckmorton stated that he believes that the suspect knows what he is doing and is capable of making a bomb, the report said. CNN has reached out to Throckmorton for comment about his account, first reported by the Tennessean, but has not yet heard back. In the course of their several attempts to enter the home, Warner would not open the door for police, a statement from the department said, and as there was no evidence of a crime, they had no authority to enter. MNPD asked the FBI to check its databases for records of Warner and none were found, the FBI confirmed in a statement to CNN. On Monday, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Director David Rausch said Warner, 63, had not previously been on law enforcement's radar. Days left of sifting through the crime scene. The explosion Friday outside an AT&T transmission building in Nashville damaged more than 40 buildings and injured at least 8 people. Investigators positively identified Warner by comparing DNA from the scene to that on gloves and a hat from a vehicle he owned, Rausch said. The motive for the explosion is still unknown. The blast left the historic Nashville street in disarray, and federal investigators expect it will take until Friday to sift through the rubble and collect all of the evidence from the crime scene. Officials said Tuesday. At the time, national response teams from the FBI and ATF had finished going throughout half of the crime scene and opened it up to city workers for cleanup and safety assessment. according to FBI spokesman Jason Peck. And though authorities have a lot of work ahead of them in determining what motivated the destruction, the area began to be opened up to nearly 24 business owners and residents on the outskirts of the impact site. They were escorted by officials into buildings deemed structurally safe to retrieve their important items, in some cases their pets. For many of the small business owners impacted by the bombing, the damage just adds to the hardship created by the coronavirus pandemic. This year's been tough. Pete Gibson, the owner of Pride and Glory Tattoo on 2nd Avenue, told CNN. But right when we get a little light at the end of the tunnel, it all goes away in 2 seconds. Trump announces wave of pardons, including Papadopoulos and former lawmakers Hunter and Collins. President Donald Trump on Tuesday announced a wave of lame duck pardons, including 2 for men who pleaded guilty in Robert Mueller's investigation, as well as ones for Republican allies who once served in Congress and military contractors involved in a deadly shooting of Iraqi civilians. The pardons of former campaign aide George Papadopoulos, former U.S. Congressman Duncan Hunter and Chris Collins, and the 4 Blackwater guards involved in the Iraq massacre kick off what is expected to be a flurry of pardons and commutations in the coming weeks as Trump concludes his term. Also included in the batch announced on Tuesday are Alex van der Zwaan, the Dutch lawyer who was sentenced to 30 days in jail after pleading guilty to lying to Mueller investigators. 2 Border Patrol agents convicted in 2006 of shooting and wounding an unarmed undocumented immigrant and then covering it up. And several people convicted of nonviolent drug crimes serving lengthy sentences. The pardons came at the recommendation of Trump allies in Congress and, in some cases, the conservative media. Many of the nonviolent drug offenders were recommended for clemency by Alice Johnson, the former federal inmate whose sentence Trump commuted at the urging of Kim Kardashian West. Mueller investigation pardons. The pardons give forgiveness to 2 early defendants who pleaded guilty and served prison time in the Mueller investigation. 2016 campaign foreign policy advisor Papadopoulos and van der Zwaan, who was part of a major investigation by Mueller into illegal foreign lobbying efforts in the Ukrainian and Russian connections of Trump campaign advisor Paul Manafort. Both Papadopoulos and van der Zwaan pleaded guilty to lying to investigators during the Russia investigation, and neither provided Mueller with any meaningful cooperation, prosecutors said. Papadopoulos had lied to investigators about his contacts with people connected to Russia, including discussing with them dirt that could hurt Hillary Clinton in 2016 and a possible trip by Trump during the campaign to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin. At his sentencing, Papadopoulos' then lawyer called him pro-FBI and said he had lied so he might still be considered for a job in the Trump administration. The defense lawyer, Thomas Breen, effectively blamed Trump for publicly urging people such as Papadopoulos to disregard the Russia investigators. The President of the United States hindered this investigation more than George Papadopoulos ever could, Breen argued. I made a terrible mistake, Papadopoulos told the judge during his sentencing hearing. In hindsight, lying to federal agents about such a critical issue could have harmed our nation. He spent less than 2 weeks in prison in late 2018. Since then, he's railed against the investigators and how they caught him. Van der Zwaan, who is also the son-in-law of the Ukrainian-Russian billionaire German Khan, spent almost a month in prison before being deported to Europe in June 2018. He showed muted remorse at his sentencing, the judge noted. This is not something that happened to him. This is something he did, federal judge Amy Berman Jackson said at Van der Zwaan's sentencing. He put his personal interest ahead of the interest of justice. More recently, Papadopoulos ran for Congress in California's 25th district in 2019 following Democratic Representative Katie Hill's resignation. He lost the race for the open seat in the March primary. Former Congressman pardoned Hunter. who was sentenced earlier this year to 11 months in prison and 3 years of supervised release related to his misuse of more than $200,000 in campaign funds for personal expenses, was recommended for a pardon by many members of Congress, according to the White House release. The former California lawmaker pleaded guilty in December 2019 to one count of conspiracy to misuse campaign funds and was set to be on supervised release for 3 years after serving his prison sentence. He was also required to participate in a drug and alcohol treatment program. Hunter would have started his sentence in May, but it was delayed because of the coronavirus pandemic, and he would have reported to a federal prison in West Texas in January 2021. Hunter and his wife were indicted in August 2018 for lavishly spending on items as inconsequential as fast food, movie tickets and sneakers, as trivial as video games, Lego sets and Play-Doh, as mundane as groceries, dog food, and utilities, and as self-indulgent as luxury hotels, overseas vacations, and plane tickets for themselves, their family members, and their pet rabbits Egbert and Cadbury, according to prosecutors. Federal prosecutors charged that Hunter had fraudulently spent more than $200,000 on expenses that included a $14,000 Italian vacation and thousands of dollars on routine items like groceries, bedding, and other household items. Hunter resigned from Congress in January, after winning re-election in California's 50th congressional district, which encompasses much of eastern San Diego County. Collins, a former New York congressman, has been serving his 26-month prison sentence in a minimum security federal prison in Florida since October. Collins pleaded guilty in October 2019 to one count of conspiracy to commit securities fraud and one count of making a false statement while attending the White House's annual congressional picnic in June 2017. Collins had shared non-public information with his son Cameron about the failed trial results for a multiple sclerosis drug the Australian biotech company Innate Immunotherapeutics Limited, of which he was a board member, was developing. He later lied to